Jessie Wagner, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and welcome to the Geoff Antonio Show. So happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, anytime. Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, I'm just discovering your music, and I gotta say, I love it. I love the soul, the vibe, the feel, your voice. Where do you get an incredible voice like that?
I have no clue. Well, I do have a lot of musicians in my family, cousins and such that sing, and I grew up in the church singing in the church. My mom would always make sure that we were part of the church choir, and she still sings in the church choir to this day. So it was always a part of my upbringing.
Nice, nice. So, when would you say you started singing in the church choir?
Oh, I guess around 7 or 8, I was particularly shy, and, my mom, she would try to encourage me to do things to kinda get me out of my shell, 'cause I was basically really scared to talk to people, and, so she would try and find ways that I'd have to, like, confront those fears, whether it be playing violin at church or singing in the choir. So my mom was a huge motivator on trying to just, help me, be comfortable in my surroundings.
Was she a singer as well?
Um, she sings. She sings, my sister sings, and she would play the piano, and, when I was young, she was very much involved in our church choir and making sure that we would have different songs for Sabbath, and, so she's musical. And like I said, she still sings in the church.
Oh, that's very cool. And you also played violin. When did you start that?
Oh, I don't play anymore. That was one of those, it was definitely when I was a kid, my mom encouraged me to play violin, flute, piano. So I have an understanding of music scales and chord structure and things like that. But as far as being able to play or play well, no. That's all back when I was a kid.
And other than singing in the church choir, what were your first memories growing up of music, you listening to music and it was really hitting you in a different way, like beyond just the average listener?
Um, I I guess it has to go with, like, the road trips, what did you take with your parents? I remember driving, I think at the time we were living in Alabama, and we would drive from Alabama back to Virginia, where I was born, because my grandparents were there. And, mom would always have, like, her favorites on rotation so she would stay awake, and I just remember, singing in the car with her, and the feeling of joy and connection I had with my mom and my sister, when we're singing, like, Nancy Wilson or The Carpenters or, let's see, a lot of Natalie Cole. She loved Natalie Cole. So whenever I hear those songs, um, like, oh, let's see, not Unforgettable, but Inseparable. That's like a big song that my mom loved. And we would all sing it to the top of our lungs. It's a Natalie Cole song. And anytime I perform it today, it still takes me back to that moment when we were in the car and we're all like screaming at the top of our lungs, singing together. So yeah, I miss those moments. It was great how music brought us together and made those long, almost unbearable at times road trips, just quite wonderful.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I've driven through from Virginia to Florida, but went through Alabama. That's at least a good 10 hours or
Well,
more.
it would be a 12-hour drive from where we were, yeah.
That's a lot of music.
A lot of music, yeah. But I grew up listening to a lot of different things, one minute it might be Tony Bennett, the next minute it might be, Earth, Wind& and Fire, it was just a great mixture of everything, which I appreciate because I think that's why my music is the way it is, because I take all those inspirations that I grew up listening to, and I kind of just let the music be what it's going to be.
Right. Naturally. Very cool. So after that, when did you start, singing on a regular basis, kind of as an artist?
Oddly enough, so I was more of an academic in high school. I would do school plays, maybe sing in the plays, but my path, the path that I thought I was going to be taking, was more academic. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to be a doctor or something like that. And I went to school with those, um, with that frame in mind. That's who I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And then I got to college. I entered a pageant to be queen of Miss Oakwood, and I was doing a very dramatic monologue, but everybody in the pageant was doing a dramatic monologue, and the pageant director came up to me. He's like, "I heard you sing. You're gonna sing." Uh, so somehow he convinced me to make that my act instead of like this crazy dramatic interpretation that I put together. And I ended up winning the pageant. And from that moment, I call it divine intervention. All these different things were being laid in my path to encourage me to continue to sing. And I started singing in bars, and then I started singing. Um, my mom somehow got this connection at a production house where I was writing music with different artists, and um, this was when I was in Jacksonville, Florida. And it just all these things just started laying the foundation for me to eventually sing professionally. And then when I moved to New York, I was working with this drummer named Omar Hakim. He played with Sting. He was part of Chic when I was there, but played with everybody. He's an amazing drummer. And we were writing together, kind of writing like a soul rock project. And he mentioned, would you be interested in singing with Chic? And I'm like, Chic, I had just seen like the behind the music on VH1 of Nile Rodgers, and I was like, oh my God, yes. Again, it's like all these things were just kind of lining up for me to move in this direction. And this was around right when I moved up to New York. I'd only been here maybe a year or so before I was introduced to Nile Rodgers. And the next thing I know, Nile Rodgers was asking me if I'd be interested in auditioning. And I'm like, heck yeah, it's Chic. And I'm singing I'm Coming Out. And I was doing the harmonies with the other singer at the time, Silver Logan Sharp, and he liked the way we looked together. We worked well together, and even though I was green, I think he saw something in me, and he was like, "Would you be interested in being a part of Chic?" And I was like, "Of course." That was the whole reason I moved to New York, and there it was, just this magical, beautiful alignment of the stars, for me. Again, I call it divine intervention, that allowed me to meet Nile Rodgers and go on the start of my professional musical journey.
Wow. What a cool story. What was it like meeting Niall, someone of just, amazing stature as an artist? I mean, what was that? What was going through your mind?
He's probably one of the coolest dudes you could ever meet. He's so just relaxed and charismatic, and he's like a walking book of stories, music, from when he started. 'Cause his journey is just bananas. So, you can learn so much from him. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous because that was like the first real star I had met. Um, but he put me at ease. He was just so calming, and the whole time I worked with Sheik, he was just that super sweet, cool, chill guy. And anybody who knows him, anybody that you talk to that knows Niall knows he's just like chill.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'd like to take a second and tell you about this channel. I really encourage you to hit the subscribe button. This really helps out the channel. helps it grow. And also, if you can like and put your comments for this video, that'd so much be appreciated. This really helps me to continue to book amazing artists that hopefully inspire you and continue to grow this channel. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the way he comes off at his interviews. So that's just the way he is, just chill.
And it was such a pleasure to work with, especially, again, being completely green coming into the situation. He could have been, more of like the James Brown school of conducting and just, docking me for pay, because I was growing up, I'd never been out of the country. I'd never, been on a big stage before. And here I am thrust right into, one of the best bands ever, with one of the most iconic songwriters ever. And he was just so patient with me, him and Silver Logan Sharp, the other singer, because she taught me mic technique and stage presence. And my first big gig with them was a tour of the Blue Notes in Japan, and we were doing like 3 shows a night. So it was like boot camp. But it was such a great training ground for me. And through all of that, he was just so encouraging and so understanding. Even when we got to Montreux Jazz Festival, and there was a moment in the medley that we would do where we would go a cappella, and the band would drop out, and we would do like this funky coo. I forgot what we did. It's been so long ago. But we're doing like this cool little thing, and Silver would always, encourage the audience to scream for us. And that night she was like really egging it on. So we were just kind of standing there for a while, and I think we all forgot where our note was. So we came back in, we were like, groove, groove, groove. Groove. And I just remember Niall turned over and looked, and he just bust out laughing. And it could have gone the completely other direction. He could have been such a jerk about it. It could have been so like, how dare you screw up at Montreux? This is Montreux Jazz Festival, But no, he laughed it off, and it was such a funny moment in the show. And we're real singers, we're real honest. It's not, nothing was recorded. We're just doing our thing, and we just caught up in the excitement and love it all, and just kind of forgot where we were. And it was honest and real and funny. And it was probably one of my favorite experiences, even though it was like a massive screw up, because he laughed, I laughed, Silver laughed, we're all just like laughing, and then we go back into the medley and finish the song, and it was great. It was such a memorable moment that it just increases my fondness for my time that I spent with Chic.
Isn't that amazing how you think, when you get on stage, you're like, I can't mess up, and then you mess up, and it's like, it's okay. And even the audience is I think they kind of like it. It's real, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's honest, it's real. And that we're giving you everything that we have up there, because we're excited. We're enjoying the moment as well. And I think that comes across with the audience. If you're really enjoying your gig, it definitely comes across, and they feel it. Do they feel your love and that excitement?
Wow. So after Chic, what was the next gig after that?
It was very different. I went from Chic to singing with Kid Rock. Yeah.
Wow. That's a change.
It was like culture shock, like, oh wow. Very, very different. But it was cool because it was a different kind of learning experience. And I got to be immersed more in the rock scene. Chic was more disco, funk, and R&B, and here I am now with Kid Rock, and it's full on, rock and roll, baby, in your face. It was a little wilder.
Oh yeah.
So it was a different kind of road experience. Niall was a little older, he'd been there, done that. I came in with Kid and like the tail end of the wild years, I guess.
Wow.
if it was the tail end, I don't know. I can't say. Maybe maybe it wasn't the tail end, but it was different. I'll leave
How
it.
did you adjust to that, going from, I mean, it's all great music, but going from the, like you said, the disco, funk, soul to Kid Rock, hip hop, rock in your face? Like, how do you adjust to that vibe?
The cool thing is I kind of took what I had learned from Chic as far as stage presence and choreography, and I brought that into what I was doing with Kid, because before I don't think his background singers moved that much. They might sway. When I came in with Stacy Michelle, we really shook it up. We brought a lot of dancing, a lot of movement, and a whole different element to the show. Uh, to the point where his audience was reacting to that. They were like, who are the background singers? Which was really cool. I was starting to get a lot of recognition from that, just because we elevated it to a different feel. We gave it we infused some of that R&B kind of dance element to it in this rock setting. So uh it whenever you're in a different whenever you're working with a different artist, there's always going to be a learning curve, because Kid approaches how he runs a band differently from how Nile runs a band. So you have to learn their personality, learn their quirks, and it's always intimidating at first, but then, if you stick with it, then you figure it out and you just become part of the team. And as long as humble yourself and it's like, I have to learn, to fit within this frame, fit within this camp. It's different from that one. You just have to make sure that you stay open and you stay present and willing to learn, and then you can make the adjustments.
Wow. Wow. And tell me, what's life on the road like, touring with Kid Rock and Chic, and how do you keep that energy from night to night? What's your prerequisite before a show to get into the zone?
I get my sleep. It was never really sex, drugs, and rock and roll for me. It was like, where's my bunk? It got to the point, like, even when I was with the Kid, um, I would the few times I would come out, I would go to a party and he would do like, what are you doing here? He affectionately called me Cornflake. He's like, go back to your bunk, Cornflake. That was very much a nerd. No, I tried to stay well rested. And I would, before a show, um, I would relax. I would take a nap and, then eat a little something and then start working my way into getting energized. Because I always tried to bring 110% to every show. And if anybody's ever seen me with any artist that I've been with, I'm always just like, I'm the energizer rabbit running around, going nuts. So I definitely, I was the one getting her rest. Every once in a while we'll go out, but no, I was the nerdy sci-fi watching kid chick, and then I would get in my bunk and go to sleep. Even to the point where, like, one of the first gigs I did with Kid, I remember him. He didn't really know me just yet, and we were in Vegas, and then he was having like this get together party, and it was the early parts of the party, and he was like, oh, what are you getting in tonight? Yeah. And then I think I said something like, oh, the hotel has the Sci-Fi Channel, and I'm gonna go watch this show. And he just, like, one of the few times I've ever seen Kid Rock speechless, he just kind of looked at me and backed up and walked away, and I was like, I ballooned it. It talks about sci-fi shows.
He couldn't even come up with anything to say.
And Kid Rock is not speechless, but this is the one time I think I stumped him. He was like, and literally backed up and walked away. He was gonna watch some show called Eureka or something, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch Eureka. It's on the sci-fi."
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. In playing with these different artists, are there things that you picked up along the way that kind of helped shape you as an artist as well?
Um, again, well, like when I start with Chic, I learned a lot from Silver Logan Sharp as far as like um when you're how to behave when you're in the background versus when you're in the front. There's a different way. We don't want to take away from the artist. You want to always be complimentary, unless it's your moment, and in that moment you can shine, or depending on um you know how you're set up within um their stage. You have to learn how to be a compliment. um and I've always taken that, and I've always tried to be on time. I always try to be very professional, because that's one of the things I think that's gotten me a lot of my jobs. It's good to have talent. You got to have talent, obviously. You had to have some kind of ability to harmonize, whatever. But being courteous and being professional, I think, is like hand in hand with your talent. And if you have that, you're more likely to get recommended for more work. And I think that's how I've gotten most of my gigs.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just word of mouth. A lot of great recommendations.
Yeah, when I started with Duran Duran, it was because Niall recommended me. When I was with Lenny, I got that audition because Sheryl Crow's guitar player suggested me to Craig Ross, his guitar player, and that's how I got that audition. So it's very much, I think, maintaining a level of professionalism and exuberance when you're on stage. Always give 110%.
Wow. Wow. Love it. Now, of course, you mentioned Lenny Kravitz. Big fan. Tell me. What was that like getting to meet him and putting that together?
Lenny Kravitz was, he's a bucket list artist to work with. Um, I even fancied myself as like I wanted to be the female version of Lenny Kravitz. He's in a sense kind of genreless. Yes, he's a rock god. He is definitely known as a rock icon. But I mean, if you listen to It Ain't Over Till It's Over, that's such a cool soul ballad. And uh or Can't Get You Off My Mind has like this country feel to it. So I'm like, I'm gonna be the female Lenny Kravitz, and then here I am having the opportunity to audition for him and work with him. So I'm like really freaking out. I'm terrified. Um, and that was probably one of the kookiest auditions I've ever been on. He flew us down to Miami, and we didn't go to an audition space. We didn't go to like an SIR studio or whatever. No, we were at somebody's house. We are like this beautiful mansion by the water. There's like turtles walking around. It was nuts. It's also Miami, so it's 5,000 degrees outside. I'm melting. I think everybody was melting, even though there was a breeze. I'm literally like, please just let me look halfway decent. I'm about to meet Lenny Kravitz. um, so we're all waiting for him. We had some like breakfast muffins or whatever, and then here comes Lenny Kravitz, and he's shirtless, shoeless, in a pair of black leather pants, the tightest black leather pants in 5,000-degree weather. And I'm like, who wears leather in
Uh,
5,000-degree weather? I mean, looking like a rock god. That is very much his aesthetic. That's not put upon. That is him, you know.
yeah.
So he comes out, and he's looking very much non-sweaty. I'm melting. Um, but we're sitting around the table talking, and it's really cool. And he's like, let's go inside and let's listen, let's sing a bit. So we all go inside, and he says, oh, let me go get my shirt. He goes to get his shirt. He comes back. One, the shirt is sleeveless. Two, it's sheer. 3, it's unbuttoned. It's like, what was the point? It's fabric. Might as well just say, let me go get my scarf, you know? But it's Lenny Kravitz, you know? It's like this see-through, what, you know? And you know, we're in the kitchen singing his tunes. We're looking at YouTube videos. Again, weirdest audition I've ever been on. You know, we're looking at stuff from like Luther Vandross and like, when are we, you know, are we gonna get in front of a mic? Are we gonna learn a step, you know, something, you know? But no, that was the audition. And he's like, okay, you know, I want to take all of you guys. Let's do this. And that was it.
That was it?
That was it. That was the audition, singing around the kitchen in a mansion in Miami.
Interesting. So I guess he just wanted to catch a vibe and see first and foremost.
He's very much again, talent is first and foremost. But we, even sitting around the kitchen, we all sounded really good together. We blended well. And yes, with Lenny, it's very much a vibe. You can tell that he customizes his players to fit a certain look, aesthetic, feel, sound. And that's what we represented in that Strut tour. We were definitely a certain aspect of New York that he wanted to put together, because we all kind of embodied this like a different borough. Like oh God, I think I was downtown, one girl was Brooklyn, the other girl was uptown, and we even like those, I don't think he knew our names for a while. And so those were our nicknames until he figured us out. Yeah, so it's very much a cultivation of an aesthetic with Lenny, and it was a lot of female energy on that stage, because you had Gail Ann Dorsey on bass, and then you had Cindy Blackman on drums. So it was a lot of Mother Goddess energy on that stage. It was great.
Wow. And what was the first show like with him?
Oh, I don't think it went very well. I think the sound was just crap. We were in Vegas. We're having issues with our in-ears. And I remember him just saying, he was like, wow, okay, that happened. Let's go get pancakes. And this is rare, because Lenny Kravitz does not eat.
Yeah.
Or does not eat, you know, junk. Yeah, every day is very regimented with him. In fact, like the first day we started rehearsing, he was like, we're all going on diets. And I was like, what? We just got here. But that show, it was just such a, you know, there were so many missing parts that he was like, we're going to get pancakes. And it was like midnight, and we were in Vegas at some spot where they had like these giant, like, it took up the whole plate size pancakes. And it was like Bananas Foster's pancakes and red velvet pancakes. And like, we just gorged ourselves. And of course, we're just like eating, because we hadn't eaten the whole time we had been rehearsing with him, because we were starving ourselves to look cute. It was like, pancakes. Sugar. I think we were more happy about the food than anything on that tour. We were always hiding it too. Anytime he would come around, we were hiding our snacks. I remember one time Ludo, the trumpet player, ran up the stairs because Lenny was about to come on our bus, and he was like, "Let's come on the bus," and we're all like hiding our snacks and stuffing popcorn and potato chips hot, you know, so you can't see what we're really eating.
That's so funny. That is so funny. But I'm sure the next show will probably bounce right back, right?
Some of the most amazing shows I've ever been a part of were with him, because the band was just killer, insane, and you're trying not to be separate from that, because you're listening to what's going on around you, and it's like, oh my God, sonically, your mind is blown, but then you're in the middle of it. You're a part of this sonic majesty, you know. So when we were on, we were really on. It was majestic. That's the only word I could think of that can describe it. And like when you're doing Let Love Rule, and the audience is singing, that song would last 20 minutes sometimes, you know. Yeah. But you are floating. You are floating with the audience at that moment, you know. It's just it's an you can't really find the words to express that kind of feeling.
I love it. It's so funny you say "Let Love Rule" because I've got one of those tracks saved in my playlist, and it's of him playing live. I think it's just him and Craig, and I don't know where they are, but it's a cool crowd. Hard to say the size, but it kind of feels like it might be maybe like a bar or something like that. But they just sing it back to him, and
Yeah.
you know, and then he goes and he does his solo vocal riffs, and it's just amazing.
It is.
Amazing.
The transference of energy is just it washes over you. And again, like I said, that song would last 20 minutes and nobody's getting bored. Nobody's like, oh God, just end it already. The audience is so enraptured with what we're seeing and what we're saying, and the band is enraptured. So it's like you have this transcendent moment of love and light and music just lifting you and thousands upon people just lifting you up in the air. It's just beautiful.
That's awesome. That is amazing. Yeah, that's just so interesting. So take me to, you know, you and being in the New York scene and what was that like adjusting as an artist, being from the South, getting to New York, the big city?
uh just I had to find my way. Again, I was a lot slower paced. I remember one of the first times I just went in to order pizza, and I go into a parlor and I'm like, "Hi." And the guy's just looking at first he has this blank look in his eyes, like, really? And I'm just looking at the screen, like, how y'all doing? And then next thing I know, he's like fed up with it. He's like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And I'm like, cheese, So, it took me like 6 months just to like get used to being in New York and how it moves and how fast it is. Um, but I was only here for a year before I got the opportunity to work with Chic. So again, divine intervention. I kind of once I found my footing, then you get used to the grind, because it is a grind. It still is a grind. I'm as much as I love being here, every day it's like, oh God, how am I doing this? How am I surviving? Especially as
Right.
an independent artist. And it gets harder and harder sometimes because there's even though there's a billion places to play music here in New York, you still want to go to all the places that everybody knows. And um and it's like, how do you make yourself stand out from all the other billions of artists that have come here to play those billions of spots? So it's not like, you're never going to be a big fish. You're always kind of like, middle to drowning in New York. And it's just like, what was that movie? Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. I think that's what sums it up the most, being a New York artist, independent artist. Just keep swimming.
Sounds like Los Angeles. Yeah, you just got to keep moving and moving and moving. But you know, we were talking about it earlier. It's like the one thing about New York I've always appreciated in the time I've been there and knowing New Yorkers is there's a bluntness to them, and this almost, I think, an advantage. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like there's, you know, other New Jersey, similar stuff like that, but it's just like this, like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. You either like me, you don't like me, but it's cool because we're setting the parameters right here, right now. What's up? Is that your take on it?
Yeah, there is no fluff. This is what you get. There, and which it I think as an artist, you're being sensitive does come along with it, but you have to be tough. And I think if anybody's coming here, it it helps to separate, uh it's like you can handle it or you can't handle it, because it's going to be in your face, it's going to be honest, it's going to break you down, and if you are able to get back up, then this is what you're meant to do.
Wow. Wow. What's it like writing music in New York? I mean, with the hustle and the bustle, how do you get into your creative zone? I imagine there's probably a gazillion things that could distract you. How do you get in that mindset where you're going to sit down and write or something creative?
I'm sure you've heard at least 8 sirens go by since we've been talking. um, I I drive home a lot to Virginia. That's where I'm from, Norfolk. So I'm when I'm driving, I zone out. Uh, I mean, I'm not to the point where I'm like drifting. I think I'm a decent driver. But no, but I think that's a good meditative state for me because then you're allowed to just kind of open your mind. You're not focused on one particular thing. You're just kind of, one with the road. And then whatever those thoughts that are filtering through your mind, I I tend to find melodies that go along with those thoughts. I also am a dream writer. Like I will wake up out of my sleep. I have my phone next to me so I could record any voice notes or whatever because I will be asleep and then something will be running through my head and melodically or lyrically and I have to write it down. That happened to me on the plane today coming back from Florida. I was knocked out because we finished at midnight. I got to bed at like 1 or 2 or something like that. But I had to be at the airport at 7:15. So I'm like, Quasimodo face, everything. I'm just like dead. And somehow I managed to go to sleep on the plane. The next thing is this idea just kept floating through my head. So I always try to keep my phone with me so I could like record uh any voice notes or write down any kind of lyric that comes to me. So yeah, I'm a dream sleeper. I'm a dream sleeper. Of course you're a dream sleeper. I'm a dream writer and I like to write when I'm kind of zoned out on the road.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I've heard of dream writing. I think it's a book I read. I don't know if it's called The Artist Way. And they talk about that as soon as you wake up, like you're saying, to either write lyrics or melody or tell a story, but it just gets you in that muscle of creativity. Have you found that to really help?
It does help when you go back and especially when I revisit whatever came out in that moment because if you go back to sleep, forget it, it's gone. But which is why you have to do that. Otherwise forget it. But yeah, when you revisit those thoughts and those ideas, it's like, oh man, that was cool. Or it's like, oh man, I should have stayed asleep for that one. Yeah. But it helps when you revisit it and then you take that impetus, that spark, and you let it burn. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And I mean, I'm originally from Virginia myself, so I'm a little biased. But is it me or is there something about Virginia, particularly? Well, you're from Norfolk. I'm from Virginia Beach. I mean, to me, every time I go back, it's just like a peace comes over me and a comfort comes over me. And I don't know, maybe I'm crazy because I grew up there, but I mean, does that, with the writing and you being an artist, how does that affect you being in Virginia?
I think that's whenever you go home, that's just what it is. If home represents a happy place for you, then anytime you go back, it those feelings just wash over you, and that is home for me. Um, I'm kind of split down the middle. I'm part city girl now. I'm part country girl, but I'm always gonna be a country girl at heart. When I go home, um, and my mom has a feast because she is a Southern cook. And, yeah, it takes me back to my childhood. It takes me back to those um, moments of bliss and happiness. And yeah, if you're experiencing that, you can definitely draw upon that to be creative. Uh, I you never know when the music's gonna hit you though. And I can't say it's when I go home. I can't say it's uh standing on a street corner waiting for a taxi. It's just you never know when the music's gonna hit you. And for me it's always just what am I going through at that phase in life. And my last album was a collection of songs that came out of a very dark period for me. So you can't say, oh, here's the inspiration. Oh, it's coming right now. No, it hits when it hits, wherever you are.
You just got to catch it when it arrives, because you don't know, but you just got to kind of ride that wave when it happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the voice recorder. Now, when you record melodies or ideas for a song, is it hard to get that vibe again when you're in the studio, when you're recording it, or like how do you remember and pull back based off the voice recording?
No, so from the voice recording, I tend to I'll write the whole song. I'll take that time. Usually I'll have the idea from the memo, and I'll tell my guitarist, like, can we get together and write? And we'll set a date and a time, whatever. And then from there it's like, okay, I have this, we're meeting up tomorrow, so I need to let me get in the zone, let me listen to this, let me take what that is and write out the idea. And then once I'm with my guitarist, he helps me chord wise, like, and I'm so fortunate that I've been working with lovely people that understand my lack um of terminology. So if I say I needed to have more candy here or whatever, and in my car, he's like this, I'm like, yes, that bit of candy, do that. um, so by the time I get to the studio, the basic structure is there. So it goes from voice memo to setting an appointment to work with my guitarist or my drummer, who's also a great guitarist, and songwriter. And then, once I set the appointment, then I can't allow myself to like walk away from it. And it's like, now you're meeting with him, so you have to write it now, So you listen to the voice memo, you let it come back over you, and you finish out the idea.
Very cool. So tell me about your latest album. You said you kind of were going through some things and figuring it out. I mean, what was the
That was Shoes Dropping. That was the album before. This album, um, as a writer, I do. I try to be very honest, and I try to be. I think as I've gotten older, I'm more vulnerable with how I write. So this album, it wasn't necessarily one particular event like Shoes Dropping. Shoes Dropping was kind of like a singular event that sparked a lot of the songs. Not all the songs, but a lot of the songs. This album, it's more a collection of the muse hitting me. But it still had to deal with a lot of emotions I was feeling at the time when I was writing the songs. Um, like take Wicked Cool. I think we were talking about it before we started the interview. Wicked Cool deals with insecurity of on social media. It's like the whole idea of the song is I want to be cool. I want people to think I'm cool. I mean, I'm not. I'm kind of a dork, but you want people to think you're cool. And and it's like where do you draw the line so that you're still honest, but you have a presentation that people like. And the hard thing as an artist is like no one's gonna all you're never gonna have everybody's love, someone's gonna always have something to say. And but you're always striving for like, I just want to be cool. I just want to be wicked cool. And that's kind of what it is. It's like, how do I present myself? And that's what I was thinking when I was writing that particular song. Or it's funny, when you're searching for the muse and the muse evades you, um, it can kind of come around the back door, like with my song I Just Can't Today. That whole song is about me just not being able to figure out what the heck I want to say. And then it's like, oh, you're just right about that. And next thing I know, it all came out. It's like, I don't know what I want to say, and it's like, I'm so done, I'm like over everything today. And then I had a song about it.
That's cool, and I love that song. I Just Can't Today, and I love Wicked Cool too. Just hits hard, feels great. Um, when you're doing a track like Wicked Cool, I mean, you're in there, you're in the studio, and you're laying down the tracks, and then your vocals and the overdubs. I mean, when do you know it's time you're done and it's ready to be put into a mix master phase?
I'm fortunate because I'm not an artist that's gonna belabor a song. If it gets to a point where I'm just like, oh, I think this is grooving, then I'm like, okay, we're good. I have so many artist friends that will just mull over a song. Oh, I have one friend that's who's an amazing, brilliant songwriter, and just won't put out the music because they're like, no, it needs this, it needs this. And I'm like, no, it's great. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fortunate in that I don't belabor the music. There are times where I'm like, oh, would, if I could get a cello, that would be really great. And I'll do things like that. But I'm good with pulling back and saying, no, it is finished.
That is complete. That is it. Yeah, that's great. And, I think a lot of people would look at an artist like you and say, you know what? She's got the look, she's got the vocals, she's got the vibe, she's got the experience. It's just meant to be, but they don't see all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it. Can you take us to a situation in your career that there was a setback and maybe you had to sit there and think about it and say, I don't know if this is for me, and how you overcame it?
God, how many times? It's like you can talk to any artist. It's like that's every other month. It's hard being an independent artist. Is every time you think you're gonna, oh, I'm gonna be able to tour this year, I'm gonna be able to do this. I mean, when Shoes Dropping came out and I just gotten my deal with Wicked Cool, and they were setting up a tour for me, and I'm like, finally I'm going on tour as Jessie Wagner, yay. And can you guess the date of when that album or the first single came out with that album?
I'm going to say it was in the year of 2020.
There you go.
The best year ever.
It's like my first tour as Jessie, and it blows up. But what are you gonna do? That's kind of the life of an artist. It's always peaks and valleys, highs and lows, and you're always grappling with either the insecurity, the financial depression, the worry that, what am I doing? I even wrote a TV series around it that I was shopping for a while. I think it's always kind of like in the back of your mind. I wrote a song for my last album, called Great Ones, and that's exactly what it is like, will I ever be considered one of the great ones? And it's me going back and forth with my demons, my insecurities. And the only thing you can do as an artist is keep going. If you feel like everything in your world is telling you this is where you're supposed to be, what else are you going to do but just keep fighting? There was a moment when I was really low. I was on tour with Little Steven, and I was, again, at the moment I was like, I'm giving this up, what's the point? And we were in Budapest, and I was walking down the street, and some guy yelled out, Jessie Wagner. And I'm like, I'm in freaking Budapest. Nobody knows me in Budapest, you know? I turn around, this guy comes up to me with his whole family, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're Jessie Wagner." And I'm like, "You know me?" And I'm thinking, oh, maybe he's going to the Little Steven concert. And he's like, "Yeah, I know you." Turns out he was not going to the Little Steven concert, didn't even know Little Steven was there, but he knew me. He knew me from when I was with Duran Duran and started following me and started listening to my music and was like, "No, I dig you, you know?" And I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna continue to follow you." It's like it was such an honor to meet you. I'm signing things, and I'm like, here I am in Budapest, and someone yells out my name, and he's not asking me about Little Steven or Lenny Kravitz, or he's asking me about, what I'm doing. And that really blew my mind. And again, I'm literally contemplating giving it all up, and divine intervention comes through in the form of this man and his family to say, no, what you're doing means something. It means something to even if it's four people, this family of four appreciate what you do. So from that, and I kept fighting, and I'm still fighting.
That's great. I mean, it's never over. It's an ongoing thing, and it's the life.
The life, yeah, it's a battle. And just like living in New York, you have to love it to continue to put up with a lot of. New York's not easy, being an independent artist isn't easy. You have to want it, you have to love it to keep fighting for it.
I say the same thing about LA. You gotta love it, because otherwise it's gonna swallow you up.
Exactly.
Like a big old shark, just swallow you. So tell me, when you're putting together your band, how do you find good musicians that you can relate to, that you can write with and connect with?
I think that's just years of playing around, you just gigging when you meet somebody on a gig. I do a lot of corporate work, so a lot of times it's bands thrown together. You meet with a person, you vibe with the person. Next thing you know, 3 years later, you're still playing with this person. uh, it's just like with Lenny and us sitting around the kitchen. It does kind of boil down to vibes, and I've kind of cultivated my own little group of guys that I love to work with. And every once in a while somebody's not available, but I've been in this scene so long that I can always call up Scott. Hey Scott, can you do this today? Or Rocco, can you do this today? I have a team of people that even if they can't do it, they'll recommend somebody amazing, and I can trust them because it's the relationship that you've built over years, and again, I've been so fortunate to be embedded in this scene that I always know who I can call on.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate. And your music really has no genre. It has no specific style, or it just is music. I mean, how do you do that? How do you just be natural with your music and not fall into any particular category or style?
It's easy to be natural. It's when outside forces try to force you into being one thing, and I'm not one thing. So it's it's not it's not hard to write a wicked cool a rock song versus my singer-songwriter song, Watching the Petals Fall. It because I've taken in so many different kinds of music, and it's just who I am, and I have a really wicked cool label that allows me to be expressive and just kind of let the music come through me. Um, it's just it's easy. I think it'd be harder if I were with a major who's like, figure it out, you know. You know, I have my guys that I work with, and they help me go on my journey with the songs, and we let the songs be what they're going to be. And you know, what I when I wrote I Just Can't Today, I had a reggae beat in my head. I was like, it's going to be a reggae song, you know. When I was writing Wicked Cool, the riff came to me first. That was the first thing that came to me before any lyrics or anything else. And I'm like, this is a rock tune, you know? So I'm just lucky that I have a really supportive team that says, go forth, be you.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great to be free like that as an artist? Because, I mean, as you know, I mean, the industry has definitely changed, but there was a point in time where it was like, if you were rock, you're gonna stay over there, and if you're pop, you're gonna stay over here. And now it just seems like it's just be you, just do you.
It is a little bit more fluid, and I think you know, you have artists like Beyonce that are allowing artists to say, okay, I listen to this, I listen to this, I listen to this, and I this is how I want to write it, you know. But even before Beyonce, like we were saying earlier with Lenny Kravitz, whose songs, yes, they all kind of melt into this rock pot, but there he has a lot of songs that have a lot of different feels to it, you know. I Belong to You sounds very different than Are You Gonna Go My Way, you know. Even with my boss Little Steven, um he has doo-wop songs, and then he has like these hard rock songs, and it's still Little Steven, it still works somehow, and it'll even be on the same album, you know. So that's the one good thing about this day and age, even though it's so hard to like, you know, find your way through the quagmire of social streaming and music platforms. But there is a freedom there to just kind of be you.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, what's next for you for 2025 and beyond?
Well, 2025 is all about War Within. So I'm going to be promoting that, promoting the songs, setting up shows. In fact, I have a show next Thursday. If you are in New York, well, I know you're in LA, but should by magic or whatever you end up on the East Coast and you're in the New York area, I'm going to be doing an album release show at the Bitter End, May 29th. And I'm going to be doing a lot of songs from War Within, as well as from Shoes Dropping and from some of the artists that I've worked with. So it's going to be a beautiful medley of all kinds of craziness, all kind of genres. So that's what's first up. And hopefully I'm going to be able to expand on that and do some more shows elsewhere. Maybe even make it out to LA. Who knows?
You should. You should.
Yeah.
We need you over here.
Oh, I'd love it.
That's great. That's great. And where can we find you online?
I'm on all the socials. You can find me Jessie_Wagner on Instagram. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok. I have my own YouTube channel. Just look for Jessie Wagner. Yeah, look for the afro. I don't have it today, but you know, just look for the afro. I'm like, ha, there she is.
That is so cool. Well, Jessie, it's been an honor and a privilege having you on, and thank you so much. Your music's incredible, and I know this music's going to continue to blow up.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I really enjoyed this.